Hare Krishna. So welcome all to Shubham Bharati from the session. And today I would like to share some points on Vandanam, that is offering prayers to the Supreme Lord. So before I start, I would like to offer my prayers. Om Ajnanatimmirandasya Gnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadameyam Dadati Swapadahikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sadhana Jatam Saha Gurunadagunatam Tamsya Jivam Sadhvaritam Savadupa परिजन सहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान सहगण ललित श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीन बंधु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानु सुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वांछा कल्पतरुभ्यस्य कृपा सिन्धुभ्य च पतितनां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। विष्णु पदाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय So today we will try and discuss as to what is the importance of offering prayers to the Supreme Lord. So, sorry. So, in Sanskrit, offering prayers to the Supreme Lord is known as Vandanam. So, it is also forming a part of the 9 process of devotional service that is being given by our acharyas and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, in the 9 limbs of bhakti, starting with Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandhanam, Dhasyam, Sakyam, and Atmanivedanam. So, Vandanam is offering prayers to the Supreme Lord. So, this Lord is also known as Uttama Shloka. That means using the finest words for appreciating the Lord or for glorifying the Lord. So that is why he's known as Uttama Shloka, because the most beautiful words or the high qualified words are being used to glorify the Supreme Lord. So when we tell of what do we mean by offering prayers, Nitai Sevani Mataji, she tells that one doesn't have to be a scholar to offer prayers to the Supreme Lord. If it is just a mutual talk between the Lord and his devotees. So whatever thoughts goes on in our mind, if we are speaking it out to the Supreme Lord, Mataji tells that we are offering prayers to the Supreme Lord. So, offering prayers is such an integral part of our devotional service. So, it forms a very important part. So, if we are not offering prayers to the Supreme Lord, that means we are making our entire bhakti life, incomplete. So, the main reason why we have to offer prayers is that it helps us connect with the Lord. So, when we start offering prayers, we feel more connected. So, when there is one so Mataji tells that in this material world, we are all striving to be happy. So any activity we do, it could be watching something, we are seeing, is my eye being satisfied being watching something, and when we are eating something, we are thinking, is my tongue satisfied? And why are we eating a particular food stuff? It is because it makes us happy, it gives us that satisfaction. So when the entire reason behind us performing any activity is that we are striving for being happy. So in this material world, when we are striving to be happy for a single day, then maybe yes, it is possible. But when we try to become happy for a week, maybe yes, that is also possible. Maybe for a week it is, we can try and make ourselves happy by doing the activities which we like. But when when we try to be happy for a month, then it starts becoming difficult. And what to talk about being happy for a lifetime to come? So that becomes like an impossible mission. It becomes very challenging for one to be happy for for an entire lifetime. So in order to be happy, we have to connect to the Supreme Lord. So once we are connecting ourselves to the Supreme Personality, who is the reservoir of all pleasure, then automatically that happiness comes in. So when we perform devotional service, we can see that happiness comes into us, because we are serving the Supreme Lord, who is who is the reservoir of all the pleasure. So when we try and connect ourselves to the Supreme Lord, that is what makes us happy. But the question is, how do we connect to the Supreme Lord? Because here, the Supreme Lord himself tells that not everybody can understand him. So the acharyas and all the senior Vaishnavas in the parampara, they tell that the most simplest way of connecting to the Supreme Lord is offering prayers. It helps us to connect with the Supreme Lord. So as we all know that performing devotional service or bhakti is all dormant in us. We all know that our eternal position is to serve the Supreme Lord, but since we have taken so many bodies, somehow we have forgotten that our constitutional position is to serve the Supreme Lord. But how do we come back to that spiritual platform of being the servant of the Lord? Is by offering prayers. When we keep on offering prayers, we come back to the we come back to the platform that we are the servants of the Supreme Lord. So there is one beautiful analogy I was hearing to a class, and the Vaishnava was mentioning as to how there is a son and a father, and the son, there is a stone kept in front of the son, and the father tells, go and lift the stone, or push the stone that is being kept in front of you, and it's a quite heavy a material for such a small child to push. So the son goes and he tries pushing the rock, and he is not successful in his attempt. So he comes back to his father and he tells that he is unable to do it. And the father tells, go put your full energy into it, use your full potential. And the son goes, he tries pushing harder than before, and again he fails. And he comes back to the father, and father tells the same thing, why don't you utilize your full potential? And this time the son goes and he tries pushing the rock even more harder. And this time he's, sweating profusely. And again he comes back to the father and he tells, father, I'm not able to push the stone. And then again the father tells, utilize your full potential. And the son tells, I am doing it, dad, I'm utilizing my full potential, and in spite of that, I'm unable to push the rock. So the father tells that your full potential is when you come and ask me for help. You come and, you request me, can you also help me to push the rock that you're asking me to do? That is when you're utilizing the full potential. So similarly, we as devotees, we shouldn't think that we can work on our own strength. We are utilizing our full potential when we are going and asking Lord to help us perform the devotional service or any activity for that matter. When we are going and praying to the Lord, that is when, we are able to utilize our full potential. So when we are asked to pray, we always come up with this reason, does prayers work? We first of all don't even have time to pray, and if I'm making out time and praying, will even the Supreme Lord respond to my prayers? Is the Supreme Lord actually listening to what I am praying? So these are all, we are all so doubtful on these topics. And today we will try and get more clarity. I will try and share some points on these topics and what I have heard from the senior Vaishnavas. So, firstly, prayers are always a miracle. Prayers can make impossible things, go possible. So first of all, I was telling as to how we always come up with the reason as to how we do not have time to pray. Our, for all our problems start with not having enough and sufficient time for praying. So there is another analogy, maybe two analogies I was hearing too. So first I will, take one by one. So there was an analogy where there is an woodcutter, and he's cutting he's cutting wood in the forest. So in an hour he's able to cut say 50 trees, and as the day passes by, he's able to cut only 25, and then it comes down to 10 and then 5, and hardly he's able to cut even one wood per hour. So once, while a saintly person was passing by, and he sees that this man is utilizing his entire strength. He's working so hard. In spite of that, he's unable to cut down the trees. And seeing this, the saintly person tells, "Oh, woodcutter, why don't you sharp your axe? Do you see your axe? It is not sharp enough. And why don't you sharp your axe so that your work becomes faster?" And this woodcutter, he starts scolding that saintly person as to, what does this man think of himself? I am struggling to cut wood, and he's telling me, go sharp your axe. I don't even have time to cut wood. How can I go sharp my axe? So this shows how foolish the woodcutter is. So he's unable to understand or taking the advice of the saintly person. If he is unable to understand that if he takes out his some time and sharp the axe and comes back, he can, his works become faster, and he can get back to his original speed as it was initially. So like this woodcutter, we are also making the same mistake. We are always telling that we do not have time to make prayers, but we are unable to understand, if we take out that some amount of time in our regular routine where we have invested the same time in performing something, some other activity, if we cut down that activity and make some time to pray to the Lord, then in that case, we'll progress rapidly. Our spiritual progress will happen very fast. My Shiksha Guru always tells that you have to progress at the speed of the rocket. So similarly, we can progress at the speed of a rocket when we are offering prayers to the Supreme Lord. And there was another analogy as to how there is a man, and he's trying to burn he's trying to make that since it was a cold atmosphere, he's trying to put on fire so that he can feel warm. So somehow he doesn't have a matchbox, so somehow, he tries to put on the fire. He puts the fire on, but in order to keep the fire on, in order to keep that warmth for him, he has to continuously keep on putting the firewood. That is when the fire. Just a minute. So when the man has put in the fire, so in order to keep the fire on, he has to keep on putting the firewood into he has to keep on putting the firewood, otherwise the fire will turn off. So similarly, if we have to keep on progressing in our bhakti life, we have to make sure that has this man who is putting in the firewood, we have to also keep on praying to the Lord continuously. So once we start making prayers to the Supreme Lord, it becomes a habit. So, it becomes a routine that we have to pray to the Supreme Lord for every single activity we perform. It could be the smallest of the smallest activity or the biggest activity that we are performing. If we try and inculcate this habit of praying to the Supreme Lord on regular basis, then we wouldn't find any there would be no difficulty or obstacles in our bhakti life. So moving on, as to now we have understood. So if we take out time and invest it in our prayers, then we're going to spiritually progress. So we'll try and discuss now as to what are the advantages of offering prayers. So as I mentioned, when we offer prayers, it helps us to connect with the Supreme Lord. So all the lost, because we have crossed so many species. As we know, there are 84 lakh species, and we don't know which type of species we were in our previous life, and we don't know how many births we have taken. So in this entire process of taking birth again and again, and in the cycle of birth and death, we sometimes forget that we've forgotten already that we are the part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. And in order to revive back to the original position, we have to offer prayers. So first thing, prayer helps us connect with the Supreme Lord and helps us re-establish that connection with the Supreme Lord, which we have lost for several lifetimes. So in one of the sorry. So in one of these studies that scientists made, it was shown, it was proven that are we think there are 30,000 thoughts that are running in our mind on regular basis. So in these 30,000 thoughts, so there is also thought that let's perform bhakti, but this thought is so dormant that the other thoughts are so strong that they suppress this fact of let us perform bhakti. That desire to perform bhakti, or that thought of performing bhakti, gets suppressed under the other thoughts, other 29,000 thoughts that are running. So in this 30,000 thoughts, we know that there is a thought that we have to perform devotional service. But how do we prioritize or make that thought important of performing bhakti is when we start offering prayers, when we beg unto the lotus feet of the Lord that I also want to perform devotional service unto you, Lord. So make the circumstances favorable. When we start praying to the Supreme Lord in this way, the Supreme Lord will surely reciprocate. So it helps us, getting helps us prioritizing our desire of performing bhakti and connecting to the Supreme Lord. So that is one of the advantage when we perform prayers. It helps us in re-establishing our lost relationship with the Lord. And second thing is, as I mentioned, it makes impossible things possible, and the most difficult things becomes easy. So there is also one of the prayers, usually Guru Maharaj, before beginning his lectures, he usually tells this prayer as to how it goes as Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langa yategirim yat kripa tamaham vande shri gurum dinatarinam. So this prayer, the meaning of this prayer is that Guru has such immense potent. He's such an empowered personality that he can make a dumb speak, and even a person who is limping, who cannot walk properly, Guru can make him cross the mountain. So this prayer shows us that just by offering prayers unto the spiritual master, the impossible things becomes possible. So, Senior Vaishnava, he was mentioning that if one offers prayers, the most difficult things become easy. But if one fails to offer prayers, even the simplest things become difficult to perform. We could have seen it, several times. There are several instances that we as devotees would have come across when we, forget to offer prayers. That could be the smallest thing we should be performing, but somehow we tend to forget, or we tend to perform this activity in the wrong manner. But on the other hand, it could be the most difficult thing, but when we are offering prayers to the Supreme Lord and the spiritual master, it becomes very easy to perform the same difficult task. So we can understand prayer is such a miraculous thing. So when we are offering prayers, we can see that those things we have not even thought of can happen, would be happening. So that is how merciful the Supreme Lord is. Supreme Lord is not telling, you glorify me in this particular way, or use these words to glorify me. The Lord is not demanding anything. So we don't have to struggle to offer prayers. So, we can offer the simplest things to the Lord as prayers. And the senior Vaishnavas tell that in case we are unable if we are unable to offer our prayers to the Lord, the best thing that we can do is pick out the prayers that is being offered by exalted devotees. So when we dive into the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam, there are such wonderful prayers. Each characteristic in Srimad Bhagavatam is offering its own prayers. You know, starting from Parikshit Maharaj, when he was in the womb of his mother, and when we know as to how Brahmastra was released by Ashwatthama, and he's praying, Parikshit Maharaj inside the womb of his mother, he's praying, "Oh Supreme Lord, this nuclear weapon, it's going to come and kill me. Please somehow protect me." So similarly, as Parikshit Maharaj, we are also, when we as Jivatmas are in the inside the womb of our mothers, we are also praying to the Supreme Lord that somehow get me out of this suffering inside the womb. Somehow bring me out of the suffering. The Supreme Lord, when as soon as I come out, I promise I will, render devotional service unto you. But the most a sad part of it is that how many of us are fulfilling the promise that we have made to the Supreme Lord, that we will perform devotional service. Hardly any of us. But it is not the case of Parikshit Maharaj. We can see as to how glorious Parikshit Maharaj was. When he was inside the womb, he promised, he prayed to the Lord, he offered prayers to the Lord to protect him. And as a result, the Supreme Lord becomes as small as the size of a thumb, and he goes and protects Parikshit Maharaj. And even when he had to quit his body, he made sure that he fulfilled his promise. He engaged himself in hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, which is none other than the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. So we can see as to how through prayers Parikshit Maharaj was protected. Not only Parikshit Maharaj, we can see as to how prayers have such power to remove the fear. So the best example for this is Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj's prayers are he has such beautiful prayers offered in Srimad Bhagavatam. We can see as to how his father Hiranyakashipu, he's trying all the means possible. He's bringing elephants, he's asking Prahlad to drink poison, he's being bitten by snakes, he's thrown into fire, he's pushed off from the mountain, but nothing hurt Prahlad Maharaj. His father was also astonished as to how, but the secret behind it was, Prahlad Maharaj was always praying to the Supreme Lord. So prayers are such powerful, they are such powerful words. It could be the simplest words the devotees are placing in front of the Lord, but it is acting as a kavacha to them, and it's protecting the devotees of the Supreme Lord. And we can also see as to how Kunti Devi is, praying to the Supreme Lord, and her, just by listening to her prayers, the Supreme Lord melts like butter, and he becomes so compassionate. Just by listening to their prayers, the Supreme Lord, who was all ready to leave Hastinapur, he melted for the prayers, and he said that I will stay back. If that is going to make you happy, Kunti Devi, then I will stay back for some more days. So we can see as to how prayers are such power. They are so powerful. Sometimes we fail to understand the power of prayers, but but Srimad Bhagavatam, it is, time and again telling us, showing us examples as to how prayers are so important. So sometimes, Amarendra Prabhu was telling, we think it is the same prayer. Every Sunday in the temple, we sing Gopi Geet. So we feel that, oh, this is the same Gopi Geet every week we are singing. But, we are not able to understand that this Gopi Geet, or the prayers that are offered by such exalted devotees in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam, they are so powerful that the Supreme Lord, who cannot be conquered by any means, he's just been conquered. He's, captivated by the prayers that we as devotees are offering to the Supreme Lord. So there are many aspects, and due to the time constraint, we can maybe have another part. So summing up for today's class, we came to know how taking out our time and praying to the Supreme Lord will help us, it will help us get a rapid progress in our spiritual life, and it helps us re-establishing our lost relationship with the Supreme Lord. And we also discuss as to how it makes the most difficult things or the impossible things become possible. And we also spoke about how it helps us removing fear by taking example of Parikshit Maharaj. So maybe in the next class we can discuss more on the same topic, but for now I stop here, and I thank Mathurapati Prabhu and Parabhakti Mataji for giving me this opportunity, and all of you for your patient hearing.
Thank you very much, Mataji, for your nice class on prayers. How prayers will help us. How a living entity should depend on the prayers. I have given a lot of references and analogies and the importance of prayers. So we thank you very much for your nice class. So we will wait for all the participants if they have any questions or responses. Hare Krishna.
ಹರೇ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಪ್ರಭು, ದಂಡವತ್ ಪ್ರಣಾಮ್.
ಧನ್ಯವಾದ.
ಪ್ರಭು, ಪ್ರೇಯರ್ ಮಾಡೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಇವ್ರು ಎಲ್ಲಾರ್ಗುನು ಅವ್ರ ಕಷ್ಟ ಎಲ್ಲ ಒಂದೊಂದ್ಸತಿ ಆಗೋದೇ ಇಲ್ವಲ್ಲ ಪ್ರಭು? ಅವಾಗ ನಾವು ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಪ್ರೇಯರೇ ಮಾಡಿರಲ್ವಾ ಪ್ರಭು?
ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಸ್ಪೀಕರ್ ಕೇಳ್ಬೇಕು. ಇವತ್ತು ಸ್ಪೀಕರ್ ರಾಧಾ ಸುಗೋಪಿಕ ಮಾತಾಜಿ ಅವ್ರು ಏನ್ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೋ ನೋಡೋಣ.
So, Hare Krishna Mataji. So, ನಾನು ಒಬ್ರು ಸೀನಿಯರ್ ಡಿವೋಟಿಯಿಂದ ಕೇಳಿಸ್ಕೊಂತಾ ಇದ್ದೆ. ಅವ್ರು ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು, ನಾವು ಪ್ರೇಯರ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದ್ ವರ್ಕ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಅಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಮಾತಾಜಿ ಅವ್ರ ಒಂದು ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ರು. ಇವಾಗ ನಾವು ಮೂನಿಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕು. ಸೊ ನಾವು ಮೂನಿಗೆ ನಾವು ಹೋಗಿರಲ್ಲ, ಆದ್ರೆ ಬೇರೆಯವ್ರು ಹೋಗಿರ್ತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಬೇರೆಯವ್ರು ಮೂನ್ಗೆ ಹೋದಾಗ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗುತ್ತೆ ನಾವು ಮೂನ್ಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬೋದು ಅಂತ. ಸೊ ಆದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಹೋಗಿ ನೋಡಿರಲ್ಲ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಮೂನ್ ಹೇಗಿದೆ, ಇಲ್ಲ ಹೋಗ್ಬೋದಾ ಇಲ್ವಾ ಅಂತ. ಸೊ ಬೇರೆಯವ್ರು ಹೋಗಿ ನಮಗ್ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಮೂನ್ಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬೋದು ಅಂತ. ಸೊ ಅವಾಗ ನಮಗ್ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಮೂನಿಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬೋದು ಅಂತ. ಸೊ ಅದೇ ತರ ನಮ್ ಪ್ರೇಯರ್ಸ್ ವರ್ಕ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಪ್ರೇಯರ್ಸ್ ವರ್ಕ್ ಆಗೋದೇ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಅಲ್ಲ. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಭಾಗವತಮಲ್ಲಿ ಎಷ್ಟೊಂದು ಇನ್ಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸಸ್ ಇದೆ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಡಿವೋಟೀಸ್ ಪ್ರೇ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಮತ್ತೆ ಪ್ರೇಯರ್ಸ್ ವರ್ಕ್ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಸೊ ನಾವು ಪ್ರೇ ಮಾಡಿ ವರ್ಕ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಪ್ರೇಯರ್ಸ್ ವರ್ಕ್ ಆಗಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಅಲ್ಲ ಮಾತಾಜಿ. ಮೇ ಬಿ ನಾವು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರೋ ಮೂಡ್ ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ, ಇಲ್ಲ ಮೇ ಬಿ ದೇವರು ಪ್ರೇಯರ್ಸ್ ನ ಆನ್ಸರ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಇಸ್ ಆನ್ಸರಿಂಗ್ ಯೋರ್ ಪ್ರೇಯರ್ಸ್, but we are unable to understand that he is answering your prayers. But that doesn't mean that our prayers are not working. So this is what I have understood. Prabhu, if you can please guide me.
Usha Mataji is asking, prayers ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ, not after offering prayers.
Okay. She's asking as to how she's not unable to pray. Is it
correct? Usha Mataji, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಪ್ರೇಯರ್ಸ್ ಪ್ರಾರ್ಥನೆ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ವಾ, ಇಲ್ಲಾಂದ್ರೆ
ಅಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ಪ್ರಭು ಒಂದೊಂದ್ಸತಿ ಅದ್ರದ್ದು ವರ್ಕೇ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ ಪ್ರಭು. ಇವಾಗ ನಾವೇನು ಅನ್ಕೊಂಡಿರ್ತೀವಿ ಅದ್ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಅವಾಗ ಏನ್ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ, ಓಹೋ ಇನ್ನ ನಾವು ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಸುಪ್ರೀಂ ಲಾರ್ಡ್ ಹತ್ರ ನಾವು ಕನೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿಲ್ವೇನೋ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ ಪ್ರಭು?
ಹರೇ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಮಾತಾಜಿ. ಪ್ರಭು, ಇಫ್ ಯು ಅಲೋ ಮಿ, ಐ ವಿಲ್ ಟ್ರೈ ಟು ಆನ್ಸರ್. ಹರೇ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಮಾತಾಜಿ, ನಾವು ಪ್ರೇಯರ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರೋದು ವರ್ಕ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಥವಾ ವರ್ಕ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಾ ಅನ್ನೋದಲ್ಲ. ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಪ್ರೇಯರ್ಸ್ ನಮಗೆ ಒಳ್ಳೇದಾಗುತ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಭಗವಂತನ್ ಗೊತ್ತಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಓಕೆ, ಇವಾಗ ನಾವು ಯಾವ ರೀತಿಯಾದ ಪ್ರೇಯರ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ, ಅದು ನಾವು ಪ್ರೇಯರು ನಮ್ಗೆ ಒಳ್ಳೇದಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಭಗವಂತನ್ ಮಾತ್ರ ಗೊತ್ತು. ಅದು ಸ್ಯಾಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಆಗುತ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನು ಮುಖ್ಯ ಅಲ್ಲ. ನಾವು ಪ್ರೇಯರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು, ಬಟ್ ಅದ್ರಿಂದ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಒಳ್ಳೇದಾಗುತ್ತಾ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ಮಾತ್ರ ಭಗವಂತ ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಒಳ್ಳೇದಾಗ್ದಿರ ಇದ್ರೆ ಅದು ಕೊಡೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಆವಾಗ ನಾವು ತಿಳ್ಕೊಬೇಕು, ಇದು ನಮ್ ಪ್ರೇಯರ್ ಸರಿ ಇಲ್ಲ, ನಾವ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರೋದು ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಇಲ್ಲನೋ ಅಂತ ತಿಳ್ಕೊಬಾರ್ದು. ನಾವೇನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ ಪ್ರೇಯರು ಭಗವಂತನ್ಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿದೆ, ಅದು ನಮ್ಗೆ ಸ್ಯಾಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಾಗಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ. ಅವಾಗ ಮಾತ್ರ ಅದು ವರ್ಕ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಅದರಿಂದ ನಾವು ತಿಳ್ಕೊಬಾರ್ದು ನಾವು ಪ್ರೇಯರ್ ಸರಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತಲ್ಲ, ನಾವು ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತೀವಿ. ಆದ್ರೆ ಭಗವಂತನ್ ಮಾತ್ರ ಅದನ್ನ ಬಿಡ್ಬೇಕು, ಡಿಪೆಂಡ್ ಬಿಡ್ಬೇಕು. ಅದು ನಮ್ಗೆ ಸ್ಯಾಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡೋದಿಲ್ಲ, ಅದನ್ನ ಭಗವಂತನಿಗೆ ಬಿಡ್ಬೇಕು. ಹರೇ ಕೃಷ್ಣ.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Pranam to all. I have a small thing to share. Can I share, Prabhuji?
Yes.
The prayer andre Mataji, ಒಂದು ವೇಳೆ ನಾವು let us think we are in the nutshell. Nutshell ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಒಂದು ಕೋಳಿ ಮರಿ ಎಗ್ಗಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಅದು ಒಳಗೆ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಅದು ಆಚೆ ಬರ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡಿ ಆ ಶೆಲ್ ನ ಹೊಡೆದ್ರೆ ಮಾತ್ರ ಆಚೆ ಬರಕ್ಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಬೇರೆಯವ್ರಿಗೂ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗಲ್ಲ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಏನ್ ನಡೀತಾ ಇದೆ ಅಂತ. ಆ ಒಳಗಡೆ ನಡೆಯೋದು ನಾವೇ ಹೊಡಿಬೇಕು. ಅದು ಹೆಂಗ್ ಹೊಡಿಬೇಕು? ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಲಿಟಲ್ ಎಂಡೇವರ್. ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಎಂಡೇವರ್ ಮಾಡದೆ ಹೋದ್ರೆ ಅದು ತ್ರಾಯ್ತೋ ಮಹತ ಭಯಾತ್. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಅಂಡರ್ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡ್. ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಬ್ರೇಕ್ ಅವರ್ ನಟ್ಶೆಲ್. ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಏನ್ ಕಷ್ಟ ಇದೆಯೋ ನಾವೇ ಹೊಡಿಬೇಕು. ನಾವು ಹೊಡಿದೆ ಅಲ್ಲದೆ ಬೇರೆಯವ್ರಿಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ, ಆಚೆ ಇರೋರ್ಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗಲ್ಲ. ಏನೋ ಒಂದ್ ಮೊಟ್ಟೆ ಇದೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ, ಏನೋ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ, ಅದೇನೋ ಮನಿ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಬೇರೆಯವ್ರು ತಿಳ್ಕೊತಾರೆ. ಬಟ್ ಇನ್ಸೈಡ್ ಅಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ಇಸ್ ದಟ್ ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಬ್ರೇಕ್. ಅದು ಹೊಡೆದ್ರೆ ಮಾತ್ರ ವಿ ವಿಲ್ ಕಮ್ ಔಟ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ನಟ್ಶೆಲ್. ಹರೇ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಮಾತಾಜಿ.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Adding on to Mataji's question, there sometimes it would have happened that the Lord is reciprocating to the prayers, but we are unable to understand to it. So there is one of the analogies as to how a man would be drowning in the water, and then he is praying to the Supreme Lord, please come and save me. And the Lord is sending boat once, but to those people he tells that no, I've prayed to the Supreme Lord, he will come. And again the Lord sends somebody else for the help, and to them he again replies, no, the Supreme Lord himself will come. And then finally he sends a helicopter so that this person could be lifted up from the water. And even to that help he tells that no, the Supreme Lord, I'm praying to him, he will come. And in this meantime he drowns off in the water. And when he goes back, when he dies and he goes back, and he asked the Supreme Lord, I was praying to you, why didn't you come? And the Supreme Lord tells, I've sent so many help, in form of the helicopter and in form of the boat, but you never took that help. So similarly, the Supreme Lord is trying to help us. He's trying to reciprocate, but we are unable to understand with our limited intellectual as to if the Supreme Lord is helping us. Is he reciprocating? So that is my understanding. If you can correct me, Prabhu.
Okay, that's exactly correct. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಉಷಾ ಮಾತಾಜಿ ಅವರ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ರಾರ್ಥನೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಪ್ರಾರ್ಥನಾ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಿದೆ ಅದು ನನಗೋಸ್ಕರ ನಾನು ಪ್ರಾರ್ಥನೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನ, ಇಲ್ಲಾಂದ್ರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಭಕ್ತ ಜನಗೋಸ್ಕರ ನಾನು ಪ್ರಾರ್ಥನೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನ ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ಸ್ವಾರ್ಥ ನಿಸ್ವಾರ್ಥ ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ಕೌಂಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಸೆಡ್ ದಟ್ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಯು deserve, then you desire. What do you translate in Kannada? First you deserve, then you desire.
ಮೊದಲಿಗಾಗಿ ನಿನ್ನ ಒಂದು ಅರ್ಹತೆ ಪಡ್ಕೋ, ಆಮೇಲೆ ನಿನ್ನ ಒಂದು ಆಸೆಯನ್ನು ಮುಂದಿಡು, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಒಂದು ಇಚ್ಛೆಯನ್ನು ಮುಂದಿಡು.
ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಡಿಸರ್ವ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನನ್ನ ಪ್ಯೂರಿಟಿ ಏನು, ನನ್ನ ಯೋಗ್ಯತೆ ಏನು, ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ಕೌಂಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಈಗ chanting 16 rounds, following 4 regulatory principles, ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಫಾಲೋ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನೀವು ಪ್ಯೂರ್ ಅಂತ ಭಗವಂತನಿಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತು. ಆಮೇಲೆ ನಿನ್ನ ಪ್ರೇಯರ್ಸ್ ಏನಿದೆ, ಪ್ರೇಯರ್ಸ್ ಕಂಟೆಂಟ್ ಅವ್ರು ನೋಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ವಾಟ್ ಎವರ್ ಯು ವಾಂಟ್, ಎನಿವೇ ಇನ್ ಶ್ರೀಮದ್ ಭಾಗವತಂ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಮೆನ್ಷನ್ಡ್ ಅಕಾಮ ಸರ್ವಕಾಮವ ಮೋಕ್ಷಕಾಮ ಉದಾರದಿ ತೀವ್ರೇನ ಭಕ್ತಿ ಯೋಗೇನ ಯಜತಿ ಪುರುಷಂ ಪರಂ. ಈಗ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಏನೋ ಡಿಸೈರ್ಸ್ ಇದ್ರೆ, ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂದರೆ ಮೋಕ್ಷ ಬೇಕಂದರೆ ಯು ಸಿಂಪ್ಲಿ ವರ್ಷಿಪ್ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಲೈಕ್ ದಟ್. ಸೊ over a period of time, your prayers will be answered, sometimes instantly answered, sometimes delayed. So we need to have it under the guidance of a devotee, then we can able to understand. Okay, hope you can.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Can you give me 1 minute time to at least throw one point on based on this question, Prabhu?
Yes.
Thank you, Prabhu. Mataji, what I understood every time, ಯಾವಾಗ್ಲೂ ಮತ್ರಪತಿ ಪ್ರಭು ಹೇಳ್ತಿರ್ತಾರೆ, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಒಂದು ಕರ್ತವ್ಯಗಳನ್ನ ನೀವು ಮಾಡಿ ರಿಸಲ್ಟ್ಸ್ ನ ಭಗವಂತನಿಗೆ ಬಿಟ್ಬಿಡಿ, ಯಾವ್ದೇ ತರ ರಿಸಲ್ಟ್ ಗೆ ಅಟ್ಯಾಚ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಗ್ಬಾರ್ದು. ಸೊ ಸಿಮಿಲರ್ಲಿ ಪ್ರೇಯರ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡುವಾಗೂ ಅಷ್ಟೇ, ನಮ್ಮ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರೇಯರ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡುವಾಗ ಮಾಡಿ ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಭಗವಂತನಿಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿರುತ್ತೆ ಅವರ ಭಕ್ತರಿಗೆ ಏನ್ ಕೊಡ್ಬೇಕು ಏನ್ ಕೊಡ್ಬಾರ್ದು ಅನ್ನೋದು. ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ನಾವ್ ಭಕ್ತರಾಗಿರ್ತೀರಿ, ಭಗವಂತನಿಗೆ ನಾವ್ ಇಷ್ಟ ಆಗಿರ್ತೀರಿ, ಅವನಿಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿರುತ್ತೆ ಯಾವ್ದು ನಮ್ಗೆ ಒಳ್ಳೇದು ಯಾವ್ದು ನಮ್ಗೆ ಕೆಟ್ಟದ್ದು ಅಂತ. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಸಮ್ ಟೈಮ್ಸ್ ಭಗವಂತ ಈ ತರ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರೇಯರ್ಸ್ ಗೆ ಆನ್ಸರ್ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ ಅನ್ಕೊಂತೀರಿ, ಬಟ್ ಎಂಡ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಮೂಮೆಂಟ್ ಅದ್ ನಿಜವಾಗ್ಲೂ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಒಳ್ಳೇದಿರಲ್ಲ. ಆ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರೇಯರ್ಸ್ ಆನ್ಸರ್ ಆದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಒಳ್ಳೇದಾಗಲ್ಲ ಅನ್ನೋ ಒಂದು ಇಚ್ಛೆಯಿಂದ ಭಗವಂತ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಆ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರೇಯರ್ಸ್ ಆನ್ಸರ್ ಮಾಡಿರಲ್ಲ. So this is what my understanding, Prabhu.
Okay.
Don't attach to the results. So every time Madrapati Prabhu, you will be keep telling this. So I thought of remember this and throw the lights on that.
Thank you.
ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಪ್ರಭುಜಿ, ನಾವು ಒಂದ್ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಮಾತಾಡ್ಬೋದಾ ಪ್ರಭುಜಿ?
ಸರಿ
ಮೊನ್ನೆ
ಮಾತಾಡಿ.
ನಮ್ ಬೀಗರು ತೀರ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರಲ್ಲ ಪ್ರಭುಜಿ, ಅವತ್ತು
ಏನು?
ಹೋಗಿದ್ದೆ ನಾನು.
ಹ್ಮ್.
ಮೊದ್ಲೇ ನಮ್ ಬೀಗರು ತೀರ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರಲ್ಲ,
ಹಾ ಹಾ
ಅವತ್ ನಾನು ಹೋಗಿದ್ದೆ. ಮಾಲಿನಿ ಮಾತಾಜಿ ಒಂದ್ ರೌಂಡ್ ಹರೇ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಮಹಾಮಂತ್ರ ಮಾಡಿ 2ನೇ ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ ಇದು ಭಗವತ 2ನೇ ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ ಅನುವಾದ ಓದ್ರಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು. ನಾನು 2 ರೌಂಡ್ ಹರೇ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಮಹಾಮಂತ್ರ ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಅದೇ ಅನುವಾದ ಓದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಮನೆಗ್ ಬಂದ್ 6:30 ತಿರ್ಗಿ 9 ಗಂಟೆಗೆ ಅವ್ರು ಹೇಳೋರು ನನ್ ಕೂಡ ಹೋಗು, ನಾನು ಸೋಮವಾರ ಹೋಗೋದು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು ಪ್ರಭುಜಿ.
ಹ್ಮ್.
ಸರಿ, ನಾನು ಮನೆಗ್ ಬರ್ತೇನೆ, ಅವ್ರು 8:30 9 ಗಂಟೆಗೆ ತೀರ್ಕೊಂಬಿಟ್ಟವ್ರೆ. ನಾನು ಹೋದ್ರೆ ತಿರ್ಗಿ ನೀನ್ ಭಗವತ ಓದ್ದೆ, ಹರೇ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಮಹಾಮಂತ್ರ ಓದ್ದೆ, ಅವ್ರು ನೋಡು ಸೋಮವಾರ ಹೋಗೋರು, ನಾನು ಸೋಮವಾರ ಹೋಗೋದು ಅಂತಿದ್ರು, ಇವತ್ತೇ ಹೋಗ್ಬಿಟ್ರು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಪ್ರಭುಜಿ. ಅದ್ ನಿಜ ಆದತ್ತ ಪ್ರಭುಜಿ? ಹರೇ ಕೃಷ್ಣ.
ರವಿನಾಥ್ ಪ್ರಭು,
ಅವ್ರು ಅಂತಿದ್ರು ಮೊದ್ಲು, ನಾನ್ ಸೋಮವಾರ ಹೋಗೋದು, ಇವತ್ತು ಹೋಗಲ್ಲ, ನಾಳೆ ಹೋಗಲ್ಲ, ಸೋಮವಾರ ಹೋಗೋದು ನಾನು ಅಂತ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗೆ ಮಾತಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ರು ಪ್ರಭುಜಿ.
ಹರೇ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಮಾತಾಜಿ, ನೀವು ಮಾಡಿದ್ದು ತುಂಬಾ ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಕಾರ್ಯ. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಅವ್ರು ಯಾವ್ದೇ ಒಂದು ಮನಸ್ಥಿತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ರೆ ನೀವು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗಿ ಹರಿನಾಮನ ಹೇಳಿದೀರಾ, ಮತ್ತೆ ಭಗವದ್ಗೀತೆಯ ಒಂದು ಅಧ್ಯಾಯನ ಫುಲ್ ಓದಿದ್ದೀರಾ. ಸೊ ಅವ್ರು ಯಾವ್ದೇ ಒಂದು ಭಯ ಇಲ್ದೆ, ಕಷ್ಟ ಇಲ್ದೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ದೇವರ ನಾಮಸ್ಮರಣೆಯನ್ನು ಮಾಡಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಅದು ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು ಮಾತಾಜಿ, ಖಂಡಿತ. ಸೊ
ಅವ್ರ ತಿರ್ಗಿ ನಾನು ಹೋದ್ರೆ ಹಂಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ, ನೀನ್ ಓದಿದ್ಕೆ ಅವ್ರು ಬೇಗ ಹೋಗಿದ್ದು ಅಂತ ಎಲ್ಲ ಇದ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾವ್ರೆ.
ಇರ್ಬೋದು ಮಾತಾಜಿ, ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಆ ಒಂದು ಧೈರ್ಯ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ದೇವರ ನಾಮಸ್ಮರಣೆ ಕೇಳಿ, ದೇವ್ರ 2ನೇ ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ ನೀವು ದೇಹ ಇಲ್ಲ, ನೀವು ಆತ್ಮ, ಅದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಕೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಅವ್ರಿಗೊಂದು ತೃಪ್ತಿ, ಒಂದು ಸಂತೋಷ, ಒಂದು ಸ್ಯಾಟಿಸ್ಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಷನ್, ಒಂದು ಕಂಟೆಂಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಅದರಿಂದ ಹೋಗಿರ್ಬೋದು ಮಾತಾಜಿ, ತಪ್ಪೇನಿಲ್ಲ. ಇದನ್ ಕರೆಕ್ಟೇ ಅಂತ ನನ್ಗೆ ಅನ್ಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಹಿರಿಯರು ಏನ್ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ನೋಡ. ಯು ಟೆಲ್ ಮಿ ಪ್ರಭುಜಿ.
ಇಲ್ಲ, ಆಮೇಲೆ ಭಗವಂತನ ಹತ್ರ ಹೋಗೋದು ಅದು ನಮ್ಮ ಕೈಯಲ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಬೇಗ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಸ್ಲೋ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಬಟ್ ವಾಟ್ ಎವರ್ ನೀವು ಮಾಡಿದ ಕೆಲಸ ಎಲ್ಲ ಒಳ್ಳೇದು, ಆಧ್ಯಾತ್ಮಿಕವಾಗಿ ನೀವು ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ. ಅವರ ಆತ್ಮಕ್ಕೆ ಖಂಡಿತವಾಗಿ ಶಾಂತಿ ಸಿಗುತ್ತೆ.
ಅವ್ರು ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ಅವ್ರು ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ಒದ್ದಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು ಪ್ರಭುಜಿ. ನಾನು ಹೋಗೋದನ್ನ ಅವ್ರಿಗೊಂದ್ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಫ್ರೀ ಆಯ್ತು ಅನಿಸ್ತೈತೆ.
ಖಂಡಿತ ಮಾತು, ಖಂಡಿತ, ವಿಥೌಟ್ ಎನಿ ಡೌಟ್. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಅಂತ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಅದು ನಮ್ಮ ಜೊತೆ ಇದ್ದಿದ್ದ ಹರಿನಾಮ, ಅದರದ್ದು ಪವರ್, ಅದರದ್ದು ಪವರ್ ಮಾತಾಜಿ ಅದು. ಮತ್ತೆ ಭಗವದ್ಗೀತೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಓದಿರುವಂತ ಸ್ಕ್ರಿಪ್ಚರ್, ಶಾಸ್ತ್ರಗಳ ದೇವರ ಲೋಟಸ್ ಮೌತ್ ಇಂದ ಬಂದಿರೋದ್ರೆ ಅದನ್ನ ಓದಿದೀವಿ. ಸೊ ಎಲ್ಲ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಆಗಿದೆ, ಖಂಡಿತ ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಆಗ. ಎವ್ರಿ ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ನೀವು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ದಿದ್ದು, ಒಂದು ಡಿವೋಟಿ ಹೋದ್ರೆ ಕೊನೆ ಗಳಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಖಂಡಿತ ಆ ಆತ್ಮಕ್ಕೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಒಳ್ಳೇದೇ ಆಗೋದು ಮಾತಾಜಿ.
Okay, so if we are sincere, so don't think that nobody will come. Krishna will send one devotee at least. Then with the devotee, surely, Lord will take us back to Godhead, provided we are a genuine party. Fake party alta irbardu. Okay,
Suresh Prabhu is lifting the hand. Is he has to say something?